I once had a guy by the name of Metal Lizard Jesus refer to my music as epic. Now, it's been a little while since I've kind of delved into the epic, but I love epic. I enjoy epic music. I haven't made a whole lot of it recently, but today we're going to change all that. I'm going to try to live up to my name. So we're going to need a little help in order to do that. The first thing that comes to mind when you think epic may not be a cello made out of a missile. But that's exactly what we're going to use today, the Artillery Shell Cello from Soundiron. Empty metal artillery shell, which gives it a really, really sharp, kind of gritty, aggressive sound. It installs on the full version of Contact and just under 18 gigabytes. So it's a pretty chunky library. I thought it would pair really well with a new percussion library from Soundiron. Tempo drums is bass, drums, toms, snares, and bells recorded in a stone hall, and you get that big, thunderous sound. It sounds amazing. It's playable straight out of the box. Fantastic interface. Tempo drums also runs on the full version of Contact and installs at just under 3 gigabytes, but you get a lot of thunder for those 3 gigabytes. Soundiron knows how to make epic stuff. They know how to make very, very different, kind of strange stuff. They have a weird instruments category, which I highly recommend that you dip into. So I created a composition featuring those two libraries, as well as some patches from the Hyperion Strings Ensemble. Just for fun, we threw in some choir from the Requiem Light Choir library that I already owned. Full disclosure, Soundiron sent me out a copy of Temple Drums and Artillery Shell Cello. Let's get epic. So we're going to start off with the cello. This is very similar interface to what we have in the Hyperion Strings Ensemble, so I won't go into all the details, but we have quite a bit of controls. Body, attack, offset, samples, release volume, vibrato. This is the slot system, which you can use as key switches, and those are all the ones that are assigned to key switches. But you can also go nuts with mixing and matching and using A and B patches and mixing those together. I'll show you that in a second. You can also change your articulations here, as well as pan feature. Okay, if I scroll down, we got a whole bunch of other stuff going on here. This is some additional legato controls. This is the A, B, which I will demonstrate in a minute. You get your effects, filter, compressor, EQ. You get some presets thrown in there. You have your reverb controls. They have either an algorithmic or a convolution. You can move your cello around in the space wherever you want to put it. Some additional controls. Play assess feature, which I have not used, so I won't go into detail, but just to give you an idea of the Soundiron interface is just mad. They've given you an astounding amount of control every time you get one of these libraries. We got an arpeggiator, and we have mixer with a couple of different mic positions. So you can fool around, have fun with those. So you can save those as presets, whatever you want to do. Expression control, which will be mapped to CC on the mod wheel, or now I actually have a fader. Shout out to Craig Peters for recommending this fantastic controller from MIDI Maker. I'm enjoying it. So it has that cello sound, but it's much more gritty. It's got a much more aggressive sound to it. All right, so those are the sustains. Tremolo. That's got epic written all over it. Spiccato dynamic. Fantastic sound. Pizzicato. fantastic sound. It's so aggressive. I love it. Okay, let's check out Kalengo. Lots of fun sounds. Okay, Flotando. Harmonic sustain. Absolutely lovely stuff. We also have some playable phrases, and I actually use one of those, so I'll demonstrate that when we get into the composition. So the other thing I was going to go over is this A-B slider, which I have assigned to my second MIDI fader. Say you wanted spiccato. We have assigned that to D1, but you also wanted to throw some Kalengo in there. So what I'm going to do is copy that, paste it. So now they're assigned to the same key switch, and then I can assign this as A, and this one as B. So when I have the controller all the way down, we have spiccato, and then as I move it up, we blend that with Kalengo. This is so fun. So useful. I don't know who came up with this thing. Absolutely genius stuff. I love this control. So there's a ton of stuff that you can do there, just endless combinations. Let's take a look at the true legato. Has a very haunting sound to it. We have some phrases as well, which I will get to in the composition. Let's get into the tempo drums. So you have a few different things in here. You can use it with a decent sampler, which I have not done yet. I just loaded up the straight up Contact. Let's check out how it sounds. Okay, instantly playable straight out of the box. I love the sounds immediately, and I'm always going for that, especially with percussion stuff. There's so much more in this, okay? You have a 4-layer system, and you have controls over each layer. So this is layer 1. You can go nuts. This is the ensemble sound. You can change that. I just go nuts. I don't think about this too much. I just start tweaking and I just start playing until I get a sound that I like. You have volume, attack, offset samples, release, width. You get all these additional controls for each layer. You can do the same thing that I did with the cello. You can assign it to layer A, layer B, and then you can use the crossfade control to blend between the multiple layers. You have some additional controls here when you click on the cog wheel. Okay, all kinds of stuff. Again, these controls are per layer. They just kind of give you everything, and they give you the ability to tweak anything that you want to tweak. So we have just a layer 1 right now. Let's put it back on the ensemble. Let's check out layer 2. We got deep combo hit. Okay, let's activate that. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, Dan, that's too much. You can put layer 1 and just keep it on none. Layer 2, we are going to add to B. So now when my fader is all the way down, I got the ensemble sound. And then as I use the fader, I'll add that deep sound. You can actually program your percussion as you're playing. I can just ride that fader and I can get all those accents just with one patch in Contact. You can just get it all done. Absolutely nuts. And then, of course, you can control the different volumes and stuff like that. I want to add some more layers. Let's check this one out. Temple of Dune. That's mad stuff. Let's check this. I'll just mess around with that. Yeah, this is great. Hidden stingers. So again, if you want really big, you might want to put that on layer B. So now let's check it out from A to B. It does small very well. It does big very well. So let's walk through the composition, shall we? In the blue, we have 4 instances of tempo drum. This is something actually that I've seen in a couple different videos, and I've just never used it in any of my compositions for whatever reason. But it made a lot more sense once I saw one of Craig Peters' walkthrough videos, just using a sub-synth, which they include in a lot of their different libraries, and there is one included in tempo drums, and just layering that down low under the bass to just give your composition a little thump. I will demonstrate that in a minute. Let's check out this tempo drums. Okay, so you get some of those funky like gongs or whatever it is they have in the background. My approach to percussion is always in layers, but I like to use both hands at the same time. So I kind of just get my volume set, and then I try to get a long extended performance so I can get all those different velocity layers in there, which is really, really important to get all those hits and accents. Now, I labeled this high drum sounds and low drum sounds, just indicating that I was using the high part of the keyboard and the low part of the keyboard. I could have got this done all in one patch, but I was just trying to, for the purpose of mixing, just try to separate a little bit. So let's play you some of those. Then we got some low drums. Starts to get bigger and more thunderous. In the purple, we have Hyperion Strings Ensemble. I'm going to come back to that because it's kind of not necessarily the feature of this video. Artillery Shell Cello. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 patches of this. So as you can see, this makes up like kind of the bulk of the composition. The composition started with this and kind of featured this throughout the whole thing, and I want that to be the focus. A couple of short patches. We have a crescendo patch, a collegno. We have a phrase, which I'll play for you, flautando, sustains, harmonic sustains, and tremolo. That's kind of the catalyst for the composition. This is their crescendo patch. Very, very useful. Okay, you can make it as small or as big as you want. I just wanted a little bit of an accent there in that particular moment. We got some collegnos. Absolutely love that sound, and it layers with the Bartok pits so well. Okay, then we have some phrases. These are very, very useful. Let me play you some of these. Very useful stuff for just getting little accents in there. Okay, and you'll hear how that works in the composition. Let's check out the flautando sustains. Really gritty metallic sound, fantastic. Sustains dynamic patch. So let's check that out. So it's got that cello sound, but just much more kind of gritty and defined. Okay, and then we have some harmonic sustains. So you hear how those are going to work really nicely with the flautando sustains. And then we have some tremolos. Much more effective than not using modulation and keeping it all the same to really kind of push things and add accents. And that is the artillery shell cello. Okay, it was a big part of this composition, the main featured part. And then in the purple, we got just a few patches from Hyperion Strings. We got some violins and violas, short patches, and then a long bass patch, short bass. I think this sometimes maybe gets missed in the Hyperion Strings Ensemble. They have this whole atmospheric area of the library, which is incredibly useful. So let me just play that at the end of the composition. And again, I'm using it just as an accent. And then we have Requiem Light, which I have not used in a while, but it's fantastic. It's got a phrase builder. So for like your marcatos, you can change the phrases. You can mix and match between source 1 and source 2. It's really, really useful stuff. It sounded fantastic when I bought it years ago. It still sounds fantastic. This is where we start to get into the epic portion. And there's just tons of tweakability that you can get with this library. I won't go into all the details. It's not the focus of this review, but lots of fun things you can do with this. Played some low parts of the choir and then the high part of the choir, and those just kind of support, but the marcato is kind of the main thing. Very, very useful stuff if you want some choral stuff in your composition that doesn't break the bank. I've been doing a lot of kind of smaller, sort of atmospheric, piano and strings compositions, and this one was a lot of fun. So I could just throw stuff at it. Who is Artillery Shell Cello and Temple Drums for? I think it's like if you want to go big, you want like epic stuff. I think you can get a lot done just with those two libraries. You'll hear in the composition that I really pushed them. I really added a lot of layers and a lot of depth. And Artillery Shell Cello, it's the only one of its kind. So it has an extremely unique sound to it. Temple Drums, the same thing. These are very, very unique, different libraries. I would highly encourage you to check out the weird instrument section and Soundiron. Absolutely fantastic stuff. There's maybe a couple holes in this composition that I could hear where other things could go. Definitely some growly kind of brass stuff. And maybe Axe Machina, Craig Peters' sample library contribution to Soundiron. I think those would work really well with this type of composition. So I'm just going to try to get my hands on as much Soundiron products as I can. I think that they have the most flexible interfaces I have seen, bar none, in terms of what you can do with them. And I think they sound fantastic. Last thing, I'm just going to demonstrate this sub-synth thing I'm talking about. So I'm going to play the end of the composition, and I'm going to keep this off, and then I'll add back on so you can hear the difference. So let's turn it on now. Very, very background, but trust me, it makes a difference. I'm going to add a quick mastering plugin to this to give it even more oomph, so you're probably going to want to turn your headphones or your speakers down for the playthrough. That's it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this. Catch you in the next one. Stay safe.